In the bustling city of Susa, a young orphan named Esther lived quietly with her cousin Mordecai. She had no royal title, no riches, but her kindness shone brighter than gold. Life was simple, filled with small acts of love, sharing bread with neighbors, comforting the lonely, listening when others spoke. One day, news swept through the streets like a rushing wind: the king was searching for a new queen. Girls from every corner of the kingdom were summoned, and to her astonishment, Esther was among them. She had never dreamed of wearing a crown, yet she entered the palace with humility and grace. Days turned into weeks, and in every encounter, she chose gentleness over pride, truth over vanity. When her time came to stand before the king, she asked for nothing to enhance her beauty, trusting instead in the quiet dignity God had given her. The king saw something rare in her: compassion that could not be bought, courage that could not be taught. In a moment that would change her life forever, the crown was placed upon her head. Yet even in that moment of honor, Esther's heart remained steady, remembering the small home she had shared with Mordecai, the simple meals, the prayers whispered at night. She felt the weight of the crown not as a prize, but as a calling. Though she could not see the path ahead, there was an unshakable sense in her spirit that she had been placed in this palace for a reason far greater than herself. Somewhere in the quiet depths of her soul, she understood that the same God who had guided her from the orphan's home to the throne had not brought her here by chance, but by design, and that her true story was only beginning. Life in the palace was unlike anything Esther had known. Marble floors gleamed beneath her feet, and servants hurried to meet her every need. Yet the splendor could not silence the questions in her heart. Mordecai's words still echoed in her mind, warnings to keep her heritage hidden. She obeyed, though it felt like hiding a part of her soul. Days were filled with formal dinners, royal duties, and the constant hum of political whispers. The king was kind to her, yet she sensed a distance between his world and hers, as if a thin veil separated them. In quiet moments, she would gaze out over the city from the palace balcony, remembering the narrow streets where children played, the scent of fresh bread from the marketplace, the faces of those who had little but gave much. Esther realized that in this new life of abundance, it was easy to forget the struggles of the people beyond the palace walls, but she could not. The crown on her head reminded her daily of the responsibility she carried. She began to notice the subtle currents of influence at court, who spoke for the voiceless, and who used power for selfish gain. Though no one knew her secret, she carried her people in her heart, praying for their safety, sensing that one day she might have to speak for them. Even in the laughter of banquets and the warmth of royal favor, Esther felt that her life in the palace was not meant to be a refuge, but a preparation. Somewhere ahead, though she could not yet see it, a moment would come when her position, her courage, and her faith would be tested in ways she could never have imagined. And when that time came, she would have to choose between safety and sacrifice. The peace of the palace shattered like glass when Mordecai's urgent message reached Esther. Haman, the king's most trusted advisor, had devised a chilling plan: to destroy all of her people. The decree had already been signed, sealed, and sent throughout the kingdom. Fear gripped Esther's chest as she read the words. If she approached the king without being summoned, the law was clear: she could be executed unless he extended his golden scepter. No crown, no title could shield her from that law. Mordecai's next word struck her heart with both weight and fire. Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. The truth of it sank deep. She had not been placed in the palace by chance. Her life, her position, her very existence in this moment was part of something far greater. Still, the risk was overwhelming. She imagined the king's face hardening, the guards' hands on their swords, the cold finality of a single nod sealing her fate. Yet, she could not turn away. The faces of her people filled her mind: elders who had blessed her as a child, mothers holding their children, the young girls who might never have a chance to grow old. Her decision became clear. She sent word to Mordecai: gather the people. Fast for me for 3 days. I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. In the stillness of those nights, Esther prayed with a trembling heart but an unshakable resolve. The fear did not disappear, but courage began to grow within it, like light breaking through the cracks of a dark room. She knew the next steps could cost her life. But she also knew that remaining silent would cost far more. Her moment had come, and she would not turn away. On the third day, Esther dressed in her finest royal robes, every fold and jewel a reminder that she was stepping into the most dangerous moment of her life. The palace corridors felt longer than ever, each step echoing like a drumbeat of her own heart. Servants bowed as she passed, but their eyes lingered, sensing the tension in the air. Ahead, the great throne room loomed, its towering doors guarded by soldiers who did not speak. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself, and the words formed in her mind, not for her own safety, but for the lives of thousands. The doors opened, and sunlight streamed through the high windows, bathing the marble floor in gold. The king sat upon his throne, his gaze sharp and unreadable. Silence filled the room as Esther took her first step forward. The law was merciless. One wrong glance, one flicker of displeasure from the king, and it would be her last moment. She could feel the weight of every watching eye, the tension thick as a held breath. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to walk, her chin lifted, her pace steady. The king's expression did not soften, and with each step she felt the edge of danger press closer. Then, at last, his arm moved. Slowly, deliberately, he extended the golden scepter toward her. Relief crashed through her like a wave, but she did not falter. She touched the tip of the scepter, the sign of mercy granted, and bowed deeply. When she spoke, her voice trembled, but it carried a strength that silenced the hall. She invited the king, and Haman, to a banquet, the first step in revealing the truth. It was not yet victory, but the door had opened. The courage she had prayed for was now walking beside her. At the banquet, Esther served with grace, but her heart was steady as steel. The king, curious about her request, asked again what she desired, offering even half his kingdom. She took a breath, knowing there was no turning back. Her eyes met his, and she spoke with a clarity that cut through the air, "Spare my life, and the lives of my people. We have been sold to be destroyed." The words hung heavy in the silence that followed. The king's face darkened with shock, and then anger, as she revealed that the one behind this plot was none other than Haman, sitting at the very table. In an instant, the room shifted, guards seized Haman, his scheme collapsing before his eyes. By Esther's courage, the decree of death was overturned, and her people were delivered. In the days that followed, celebration filled the streets where grief had once taken root. Families rejoiced, children danced, and hope returned to homes that had braced for despair. But for Esther, the greatest victory was not the crown on her head or the cheers of the people. It was knowing that she had chosen to stand when fear told her to stay silent. She understood now that her life's path, every twist, every loss, every quiet act of kindness, had been leading to this moment. Esther's story became more than history, it became a living truth whispered through generations, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. And that one person, willing to risk everything for the sake of others, can change the fate of many. As the sun set over Susa, Esther stood at the palace window, her heart full, knowing she had walked the path she was meant for, and in doing so, had given life to countless others.